For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified Livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Molly Lovette. How's it going today, Molly?
Hey, great. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's kind of funny because I was listening to your new single, Seasons, and it feels like the last 3 days we've gone through all 4 seasons.
Oh my gosh. Literally, my allergies have never been worse than they are right now.
I bought like a jumbo pack of allergy meds because I was like, I'm going to just burn through this over the next couple of weeks. So,
oh my gosh, it's been so crazy.
Yeah, it's been rough. And being out, like, it's not bad where I'm at in Central Texas, but just still it's rough. I know what you're going through out in Nashville. I lived in Kentucky for a little bit and my allergies were just on fire all the time.
Yep. It's not good for my career,
Yeah. Completely understood. But first off, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I'm really excited to sit down and chat with you. I've heard a lot of really good things about you. Really enjoyed listening to your music over the last few days as I was kind of preparing for this interview and whatnot. But before we jump into the new single that I already kind of teased, what's kind of your background story? Let's kind of take this opportunity to have you introduce yourself to all my listeners or anybody new out there that's meeting you for the first time.
Yeah, I've always loved music since I was a little girl. My parents say that since I could talk, I was singing and I would be constantly, performing and putting on little concerts at home, and I would do the talent shows. And I learned piano when I was little as well. But it wasn't until a little bit later, I was about 14 years old, and we found out that I had a bone tumor actually in my femur bone. And so it was during that time that I was out of sports and pretty much everything. I couldn't do much during that recovery, that I learned how to play the guitar and I started writing a bunch of songs. And that was kind of my turning point where I decided that music is going to be my life. And that's, what I love and what I want to do.
For sure. When you kind of made that turning, or when you kind of hit that turning point, that music was going to be your life, who are some of your musical influences? Who are you listening to?
Yeah, one of my biggest influences is Taylor Swift. That is just, the era that I grew up in. She was one of my first CDs, and I loved her then, as a girl, but now, I love her as a businesswoman, as a songwriter, the whole thing. So she's always been a big one. Carrie Underwood as well was another. I looked up to a lot of the female artists for sure.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And so as you're kind of going through this process of obviously healing after dealing with the tumor in you said your femur, right? As you were kind of going through that and transitioning into music, what was kind of the thought process as far as what kind of music you wanted to make? Did you want to be like the female country singer like Taylor Swift and all them, or were you trying to veer into another lane and it ended up going back to a female country singer? What was the original thought process?
Yeah, I didn't really have this idea that I was going to be a country artist necessarily. I just wanted to perform and to write and to sing. But, thinking back at the time, most of the music I was listening to was country music, and it was a lot of female artists. So not that I didn't have, that set idea, I'm going to be a country singer, but I just kind of, that's how it worked out.
I gotcha. And that specific moment, well, I'm sure there was several specific moments that kind of helped you decide, okay, I'm going to take music into or in as a serious career path. What do you think, if you hadn't found that tumor or you hadn't had that tumor, that you would have not done music? Do you think it was that extreme, or do you think it just got kind of put you into the path of music sooner rather than later?
I think that it got me there sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I think I always knew, I mean, since I was a little girl, I told people, like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a famous singer. That's what I would always say. So I think that that had always been a dream, but finding that tumor and being kind of, bedridden for so long, that gave me the push to, like, okay, let's dive into music. And once I did that, I just didn't want to go back to anything else.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. It's always interesting because you look back at these specific moments in your life where it's like, oh, things could have went completely different direction. And I wasn't sure if the tumor, like finding the tumor in your femur, was one of those situations where, oh, nope, gave me an opportunity to like focus in on music and I'm really want to pursue it, or if it was always going to end up being music, just the speed in which you got there changed.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So kind of taking a step back a little bit, growing up, who introduced you to music originally? Was your family really musical, or?
Yeah, my family loves music. We're a big music family, big sports family. My parents actually took me to my first concert when I was 5 years old. They took me to see Tim McGraw. And like, that's my family's favorite thing. Like growing up, every weekend we would go watch live music in St. Louis, like whether it was sitting on a patio somewhere with somebody playing acoustic guitar or going to see bands. Like my family, they're just big music lovers. And my dad actually is the one who taught me how to play the guitar. He plays a little bit. My grandma sang, my mom loves to sing. And I think I was just kind of always surrounded by it.
Gotcha. And then it kind of the same thing where you're still listening to like the strong female country singers, even at that young of an age.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
My parents love country music. They love all genres of music. One of our family's favorites is Bon Jovi. That is like my mom's favorite person in the world. So I grew up listening to a lot of rock and roll as well.
Gotcha. And so growing up in St. Louis, was it a very diverse music culture in St. Louis, or do you notice that it's a little bit more rock heavy? Like what's kind of the music culture like in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is rock and roll. At least the ones that my family went and saw growing up, it was a lot of rock cover bands. So really, like when I started playing out in St. Louis a bunch, there weren't a ton of other like country bands or country artists. It was kind of cool because I kind of got to do my own thing and pave my own way.
Yeah, for sure. So when you started, what was kind of the point that you started writing your own music instead of like just learning how to play and maybe doing covers? When did you kind of start exploring the option of writing your own music?
Yeah, I actually wrote a couple of songs when I was like, 6 and 7 years old. And we got one of them recorded, which is, I don't ever want to have to listen to that. But I used to write, when I was little, a little bit, but it wasn't until high school. And it was probably like senior year of high school that I started writing a lot. I would go to my garage at my parents' house and I would just sit in there and practice guitar, and I would write a bunch of songs. And it was right after I graduated high school that I finally started sharing some of these songs with people, and people liked them. And I was like, oh, wow, like people like the stuff I've been writing. So cool. So I started kind of sharing some more, and then decided that I wanted to record them. So I made a little homemade album in high school. At the end of high school. But yeah, it really wasn't until I was probably like 17 or 18 that I started like seriously writing.
Gotcha. So that first song that you wrote that you recorded and don't ever want to hear, have you ever given thought of going back and like maybe putting a more mature spin on whatever the subject matter was?
Honestly, I don't know if I even could. The song is called Forgetful.
Okay.
And it's just about me being forgetful. Like I don't even think I could go back to it and try to save it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It's always interesting because like just kind of looking back at some of the projects, like film projects and video projects I did going through school, it's like, man, I kind of want to go back and redo that one because there's something there, but I don't know what it is. So
with some of the ones that I wrote in high school that I have recorded and put out, I feel like I've just grown so much as after being here in Nashville and co-writing and stuff that I'm like, oh wow, like there are many things I would like to go back and kind of change on those songs.
Yeah, for sure. And are those songs still out, or did you kind of wipe them from your?
As of this moment right now, they are still out, but they will not be out for much longer. So if anybody wants to get their last listens, then check them out. But yeah, I will be removing them pretty soon.
Gotcha. Just because they don't really represent who you are, or is that kind of the reason?
Yeah, I mean, especially now as an emerging artist, I don't want people getting, hearing those songs and looking those up and having that be the representation of, me as an artist. Because I'm really proud of, the songs I've written in the past couple of years and the recordings and everything. So that's kind of what I want to be able to promote and have people check out.
Yeah, for sure. And so kind of going through high school, you ended up going to Murray State for undergrad. That's the word I wanted to use, undergrad. Did you end up graduating from Murray State, or? I
did not.
Okay.
I loved it. It was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the school. I loved the people. And that also was kind of one of those stepping stones that got me to where I am. So it was during my freshman year at Murray State that I came back home over Christmas break and had this album release party for those songs that I'd written in high school. And it was just like the coolest night ever for me. We had so many people come out and I got to play with a band and it was really cool. And that was kind of the night that I realized that if music is going to be my life, that's what I want to do, then I have to do it 100%. So I, decided not to return for the second year.
Gotcha. I often say that I would have not graduated college had my dad not bet me that I wouldn't graduate.
That was your motivation.
Yeah, that was kind of my motivation. He was like, you know what? I bet you won't graduate. And I'm like, all right, Dad, let's go. Well, let's make this happen. And then I ended up, it was the worst practical joke or worst bet ever because I ended up losing in the long run because I took on a huge college loan debt. So
yeah, that is rough. Yeah.
So, but it is what it is. At least it was in state, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
So.
Of course.
So you ended up living in St. Louis for a little bit, and then you moved to Nashville. You've been in Nashville about a year and a half. How are you liking Nashville?
Yes, I love Nashville. It's St. Louis will always be home. I love St. Louis, and it's so fun getting to go back there. But Nashville's just different. Like there's just, every night of the week, every hour of the day, you can find live music in every corner. It's just, it's different, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Nashville's been a place that I've wanted to get to for a while. I'm just kind of waiting for I'm not going to move unless I have a job or something lined up. I'm not that ambitious yet, but we'll see. Hopefully someday soon.
Yeah. So Nashville right now, like it's just everybody from everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like I went like right before the pandemic, so it's been a little over 2 years at this point. And I just can't wait to get back there.
Yeah, it's cool.
So you've been in Nashville about a year and a half. You obviously moved there shortly after the pandemic hit. Were you planning on going there earlier and then the pandemic kind of hit, or how did that kind of play into everything?
Yes. So my original plan, so, I left Murray State, moved back home to St. Louis, and was just gigging as much as I could, save up money so that I could get to Nashville. And the plan was always to move to Nashville in June of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But that, did not happen. Everything was shut down and it was, not going to work out. So I, finally, in September of 2020 is when I moved, and things still weren't, 100%, but most were back open. And I just kind of told myself, like, who knows when things are going to be normal again and what's going to happen. So, like, if I'm going to do it, I need to just do it. Yeah. So I did it. Worked out, everything was, I got to play and meet people still. And it was all good.
For sure. And honestly, like that, at that point during the pandemic, it was kind of the worst / best time to go, because you got an opportunity to kind of get in there, get acquainted. And then from what I understand, like there was still stuff kind of going on if you knew the right people and whatnot. But like, I don't know. I feel like it was probably a good point in your life to go, because like everything was shut down. So that's going to be really exciting now that things are starting to open back up. You've got your connections, you're releasing music, all that fun stuff. So
for sure. I mean, the first night or like weekend that I moved to Nashville, I went to a writer's round and, just was introducing myself to random people because I knew nobody. But I mean, literally I played the weekend that I moved here because someone like from Instagram, I saw out and went and said hi. And they were like, "Oh, do you want to play at this round tomorrow? I'm hosting." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, yeah. So it's just, Nashville's really, everyone wants to help each other out. And it's
for sure. That's the one common thread that everybody that's from Nashville or lives, I keep saying from Nashville, but there's very few people actually from Nashville, it seems like. What, from your perspective, what's kind of the key to success in Nashville?
I think definitely the connections, just meeting everyone and putting yourself out there. I mean, that's, what I have tried to do since I've been here, and just saying yes to everything, right? Like right when you move, like, play every show you can. And just being a good person goes a long way as well. Like treating people well, they're gonna, treat you well right back. So
for sure. Now we're here to talk about your most recent single, Seasons, a little bit, but I want to take a little step back and talk about your debut, Crush. Is that technically your debut album?
It is. Yes, that's the high school.
Okay. And so that's you released that right before, or well, not right before, within the year before you moved to Nashville.
Like a year and a half or so before. Okay. Released that one when I was at Murray.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm sitting here and all I have is years to go off of. And I'm like,
I know right now. Yeah.
It's like 2019. That could be a year. That could be 3 years. Who knows? I don't know. So that was your debut album. What were some things that you took away from that whole process of writing, recording, and releasing an album that you kind of took forward to all the stuff you've been releasing over the last year and a half or so?
Yeah, that whole album was such a learning process. I had no idea what I was doing, and my family, as much as we love music, we didn't know much about the music industry. So it was a really exciting time. Like I had never, really got to record anything before, and, to have written these songs that I was really excited about and proud of, and to have, my friends and everybody get to hear them. It was super cool. And, getting to kind of play shows for the first time and all of that was all happening at the same time. But now, I mean, looking back, I'm still learning, and I'm still, trying to figure out how everything in the music works. But that was definitely just a super exciting time. I was very naive, I feel, back then, with just, putting something, like I was excited about it and I wanted to put it out, and there wasn't too much planning to it.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? That is actually a blessing in disguise, the way I kind of see it, because I'm a big firm believer in ignorance is bliss. And just like not knowing everything that could go wrong kind of disarms you from, oh man, what happens if I put this out and nobody listens to it or whatever? You're just putting it out to get it out there because you love music, you love writing, you want people to hear it. And yeah, maybe you didn't promote it the way you should have, or 800 different variables. Just kind of getting it out there and getting that repetition, that's the word I'm looking for, speaks so much to, I can't even think of the words I want to use right now, so we're gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, that makes sense though, definitely. I mean, I was nervous a little of like, I hope people like them, but I didn't have all of those years of like you were saying.
Yeah, for sure. So you got the debut album out, and then once you started moving to Nashville, that's when you started releasing all these singles that you've released over the since 2020.
Yes. So I traveled to Nashville from St. Louis a couple of times to record here. I have my publicist here in Nashville who I've been working with for a couple of years now. Introduced me to my producer here in Nashville. So I would travel when I was in St. Louis and come record some songs. And that was like just a whole other experience, like getting to record in Nashville. It was like, I wish someone was videoing me in the booth, because I think my jaw just dropped, like hearing these musicians, create my song and bring it to life was like the coolest thing ever.
And so have you always recorded in Nashville, or when you were like doing your original album, was that recorded in St. Louis?
Yes, that was in St. Louis, the original one. So yeah, my guitar player at the time was kind enough to like let me use his home studio, and we just did it there.
Gotcha. So you've been releasing singles for a good minute now, which leads us to your most recent single, Seasons. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied there. What's the story behind this song?
Yeah, so I wrote this song a little over a year ago, and I wrote it about a relationship that I was in that just kind of changed like the seasons. Like when things were good, they were good, and then they'd be bad. And it was very back and forth. And eventually had to learn to let that person go. And it was really hard. So, as I always do when I'm feeling some sort of emotion, I wrote a song about it.
Awesome. And how long had that song been kind of in the works?
So I actually started writing it last November.
Okay.
Been like a little over a year that I began writing it, and then we kind of, tweaked it a little, and I recorded it about a year ago. So we've been holding on to it for a second. Gotcha.
And it's been out for what, about a month now? Yeah. Cool. How's the reception been to the single?
Good. I'm always a little more nervous when I'm releasing songs that are slower and like a little more vulnerable of, what people will think. But I've received so many messages of people that like relate to the song or really love the song. And yeah, the numbers are good on Spotify. People are listening in Apple, and it's been really, really good.
Cool. So is the plan kind of moving forward to keep doing the singles, or do you see a point where you're going to do like a full length album or something?
Yeah. As of now, I think I want to just keep releasing the singles. I might eventually kind of wrap a bunch of them up and turn it into an album for the makes sense to do. But I love getting to release singles because I get to focus on one song at a time and get to share, with everybody, just one song at a time. So I know that people are, focusing and listening to this one song, and I can, make a video for it and do all kinds of things for it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially this day and age with how streaming's kind of taken over especially during the pandemic year when there's not been that many live shows or the ability to get out and tour. So it's definitely changed how a lot of musicians release music, which has been a really interesting thing to watch and watch and observe how musicians adapt. Like sometimes they just say, no, screw it, I'm going to release an album because I want to, so
Yeah.
Our Seasons is out now on Spotify, all that stuff. What's kind of the plan moving forward? Do you have the next single ready to go, or what's kind of the thoughts there?
Yes. So I've got a couple more songs that I have recorded. We need to photo shoots and stuff still. But one of them, which will probably be the next single, is actually a duet. So I'm really excited about that one. And that's just, kind of the plan is to keep recording, writing, putting music out, touring, and, eventually something will stick and I'll work out.
Gotcha. Are you working on a lyric video or anything for Seasons? Because I noticed on your YouTube channel you have some lyric videos for your previous releases.
Yes, there will definitely be a lyric video for Seasons. And we actually just released a live full band acoustic Seasons, which was so much fun. We got to have a little release party here in Nashville when the song came out. And my band played with me. It was like a little stripped down version. It was so much fun. It was such a cool night. And so we got the little video of that for people to see as well.
Awesome. I did notice that, but it's when you say like music video or lyric video, that comes like a certain expectation, I guess. So it's always interesting to see if you're gonna it's interesting how musicians kind of pick which songs get a lyric video versus which ones just kind of live on their own. So
yeah, for sure.
So is it so it's a situation where every video gets a lyric video, or every song gets a lyric video, or do you kind of pick and choose?
I like to do that. With the music videos, I will pick and choose just because music videos are very expensive and it kind of depends on the song, I feel like, for a music video. But the lyric videos I love to do for every song because I people to be able to see the words in front of them and know what I'm saying, and I feel like it's just another way to kind of add some artistic expression to some of the songs.
For sure. And it kind of gives you even though because music videos kind of give you a visual representation of what the songs are, lyric videos can do the exact same thing and cost like a tenth less.
Yes.
I always enjoy watching lyric videos to see how creative musicians get, because you could do a lyric video and make it as bland and boring as you want, but there's also those musicians that just kind of give it to somebody that's super creative or really good at After Effects or whatever, and they just do some really cool stuff with it. So it's always interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
So awesome. So what's the live show situation looking like right now? Are you actively playing consistently through the week, or what's that?
Yeah. So most of the times during the week, I am in Nashville and I play a lot of writers' rounds here. I play a bunch of hotels, and it's usually solo gigs here. And then a lot of the weekends I will be with my band and we're on the road. So I'm actually heading back to St. Louis this weekend to play some shows. And I've got my band meeting me next weekend. We're playing again in St. Louis. And so this is kind of, the winter's been somewhat dead with tour, but kind of starting next weekend, we'll have the band on the road, and that, kind of hitting a bunch of different cities all summer and getting to tour again.
Gotcha. That's got to be exciting. It's been I feel like it's been so long since bands and musicians have been able to do I'm going to say proper tour because, lack of better terms, but, a longer tour because, with COVID and everything, most bands would go out for a week and that's about it. So how does it feel to get back out on the road for you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Really last summer was my first time really like playing with my band all the time and getting to get a taste of that. And so, I can only imagine like what this summer is going to bring. We're hitting like cities and some new venues and, oh my gosh, I love the full band shows. They're so much fun. It's such good energy and it's a blast. So I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because it's as hard as it has to be to book full band shows, trying to get everybody's schedule like on the same page. It's got to, as a musician, it's got to be so much more rewarding when you're up on stage with people that you enjoy being around and just have fun and that chemistry. And it makes the show so much more exciting, especially from your aspect and the viewers or the listeners aspect, viewers aspect. Either way, I guess it's both right. So are you also doing festivals or are you just mainly doing like shows?
A little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Still, so I do have an agent who books a lot of festivals and things like that. So we're still getting, dates and stuff on all of those. But I will be back in St. Louis quite a bit, which will be fun. I know we're hitting like some cities in Kentucky and Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. So yeah, we'll be hitting a lot of different places. And I'm excited. And like you said, with having your band, being you love and enjoy playing with makes such a difference. Like when I moved here, it was such a process kind of creating a band, putting that together. So now I'm like finally at the point where I've got my band and they're great and they're so fun to play with. And I think this summer is going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So it's the point of the podcast where I've got to ask you to pick your favorite child. Since you've released your debut album, all the singles that you've released over the last year and a half or so, what is your favorite song to perform live?
Oh boy. So from everything, the singles, the album.
Yeah. No, not from from all the singles that you've released over the last year or so, year and a half.
Oh, that's really tough. I think that Hey Hey is my favorite to perform live. Hey Hey is just such a fun, like catchy kind of song. So even when I'm playing that at a venue where people don't know me, they're getting introduced to me for the first time that night, people are out in the crowd singing along because it's so easy to catch on to. So that's like such a cool feeling is, seeing people out there singing your song.
Yeah. It's always when a band or a musician has that one song that regardless if you've been listening for 4 minutes or 4 years, there's always that one song that just kind of can catch them. And that's great to kind of just always have in your back pocket. So awesome. So kind of outside of music, now that Seasons is out and it's doing well and you're kind of in the process of getting ready to go back out on the road, and what do you kind of do to decompress or escape from everything? What are some of your hobbies?
Yeah, here in Nashville, it's been so much fun. I have a lot of artist friends, so we don't necessarily escape the music too much. But it is different when, I'm not the one that's performing and I get to just go watch some friends play and have a night, supporting some other people in their music. But I love, I don't want to say I love, I'm starting to love reading. I've been trying to get into that. So I've read a couple of books so far this year. Trying to get into that. And then just the typical, I love like Netflix and Hulu, all the shows. I definitely distract myself with some Netflix.
Nice. You brought up Lake of the Ozarks, and it reminded me that I got to watch the latest season of Ozark. But I got to go back and rewatch season 3 because I don't quite remember what happened. So,
Yes, my is like mad at me because I haven't watched Ozark, and they all have. Maybe that'll be my next show. I need to watch it since I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, it's good. Because I remember the first 2 seasons pretty well. It's good, and then I just got to go back and watch the 3rd season, and I'll be ready for the 4th season.
Yes, there you go.
So, what are some shows that you've enjoyed on Netflix? And
I love one of my favorites is New Girl. I've watched through like so many times. That's my show that I'll just like fall asleep to, or if I'm doing things just to have it on in the background. I love New Girl. Schitt's Creek, I also love. I've watched that through so many times. I just finished watching Euphoria, which everyone is talking about.
Everybody keeps telling me I need to watch it. It's like, I'll find.
It was an interesting show, but I kept seeing it all over TikTok, and my roommate wanted me to watch it, so I just got done watching that one.
Cool. There's just so many shows where it's just like I've got to watch these before I can watch that, and I barely have time as it is. So maybe in 3 years I'll watch it. Okay.
I feel like watching shows is like on my to-do list. Like I'm like, okay, I finished that series. I can check it off. Like there's so many different shows I want to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in that same boat with you. So before we kind of wrap up the podcast, there's one thing that we do with everybody that comes on. We have our rapid fire question series. I'm still trying to figure out a cool name for it, but I have a random question generator sitting right in front of me. It's a nifty little phone app thing that I found. And if you are ready, I'm going to fire off some real randomness at you.
I am ready.
If I were to ask your last supervisor for a recommendation, what would they probably say?
A recommendation for what?
Just a recommendation.
Last supervisor?
Yeah.
That I'm a procrastinator, so tell me to do things earlier.
Okay, fair enough. What are some ways to get someone's number without speaking?
Speaking, you could just hand them your phone with the contact thing, like ready to go.
Okay. Would you rather be transported permanently 500 years into the future or 500 years into the past?
Ooh. Maybe, no, I think the future, because there'll probably be cool things in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that. What are your 3 favorite smells?
Oh, I love vanilla. There's like a sweet pea smell that I really like. Maybe like cinnamon.
Cool. If you were in a zombie apocalypse, what is your weapon of choice?
Apocalypse. Maybe like maybe like a bow and arrow, because I love the Hunger Games and I'd want to be like Katniss, you know?
All right. And for the most random question I've seen on this app,
Okay.
if you were hiding in a closet to try and scare somebody, what sound would you make to grab their attention?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I would, you know what? I would actually just do like a bloody murder scream, because that would probably really scare someone.
Fair enough. If you 2 more, if you had 100,000 of something in your life, what would it be?
100,000 dollars.
Fair. That works. final question. Would you rather suddenly have amazing cooking skills or amazing video game skills?
Cooking, for sure.
All right. Kind of a lackluster finish. As I was reading it, I'm like, I'm hoping this gets a little bit better, but we'll run with it. So thank you for playing along with that. It's been a fun ride, and I've really enjoyed doing the rapid random question thing. I'll come up with a name for it eventually. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. If anybody wants to check out the new single, anything else you got going on, where's the best place to see all that?
Yeah. So my website is mollylovette.com, and all of my socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok at Molly Lovette. And then, yeah, check out the music wherever you stream, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever it is. But yeah, pretty much just search Molly Lovette and you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. And thank you to everybody that's been tuning in and hanging out with us all night. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys want to hang out for a little bit after the podcast, I'm going to be chatting with a friend of mine that lives down in Austin. We'll be hanging out in her channel. So feel free to jump over. Her name's Mandy Prater. We'll be over there for a little bit. So feel free to jump over. Once again, thank you so much, Molly, for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. Look forward to having you back on or seeing you perform in Texas or Nashville whenever I figure out how I'm going to get there. So,
yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and thank you for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you, everybody, and we will catch you all later.